Hey guys, ever wondered when you write youtube.com in the browser URL, how does the YouTube homepage show up? Yes, in this video we're going to understand exactly that. So what happens behind the scenes are these 5 steps. First step is DNS Lookup. Second step is TCP handshake, HTTP HTTPS request, server response, and browser rendering. So let us go through the example that I just given you before. So when you write youtube.com in the browser URL, in the first step, DNS lookup is done. So there is a phone book of the internet, which is also called domain name system or DNS, and there is a server where IP address for every domain name is listed. So the IP address for the Facebook can be this, IP address for Netflix.com can be this, IP address for the youtube.com can be this. These are just examples, but this is how your DNS manages the IP address. So when you write youtube.com in your browser URL, the browser will go through the DNS server and find the IP address for this domain. So for youtube.com, the IP address is this. So in the first step, your browser has extracted IP address from the DNS server. Now in second step, what it does is TCP handshake. In second step, TCP handshake is done. What happens in this step? So in this step, now that your browser has extracted IP address from the DNS server, it will connect to the YouTube server through this IP address. Yes. So in TCP handshake step, a communication protocol is established with the YouTube server. So that because in the later stages, your server and your browser and your YouTube server needs to exchange resources. To exchange resource, it needs to do TCP handshake. So now that second step is done, the third step is HTTP request and HTTPS response. Your browser will send request to the YouTube server asking for the home page. It will say something like, "Hey YouTube server, I need the home page for the YouTube," and your YouTube server will respond something like, "Here you go, this is the home page, display it on your browser." So let us go into a little detail on how this is happening. Firstly, your browser will send request, which is called HTTP GET request, to access the home page of the YouTube. Now when YouTube server gets the HTTP request, it will send HTTP response. And in HTTP response, it will send status code, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So it will respond with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code, and your browser will render those code and display it for you. So that is how you see the YouTube homepage, because your YouTube server is sending HTML code, CSS, and JavaScript. Your browser will render the HTML, download the CSS, and apply the JavaScript, and then show it in your user interface. So let us again view a quick summary. When you write youtube.com in your browser URL, your browser will go through the DNS server, find the IP address, and then it will do HTTP, and then it will do TCP handshake. It will establish a communication protocol. Then it will ask the YouTube server for the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code, and finally your browser will render those code and display it for you. So let us go through an example. So when you write youtube.com, let me also open the inspect. So basically the inspect has, to open the inspect, you right click and then you click on inspect, and then you click on the network tab. So let me hit enter. I've written youtube.com in my browser URL, and now I'll hit enter. So yes, let me reload. Yes, so now you can see in the first request, you can see that your browser is sending GET request to the YouTube. So let me click here and let me view the headers. Yes, your browser is sending GET request, and the browser has received 200 status code from the YouTube server. Now let us see what the YouTube server has responded with. As I said, the YouTube server responds with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code. You can see the YouTube server has responded with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code. And now your browser will render this code and display it like this for you. So I hope you understood how your browser actually works, and how when you write some URL in your browser, how something is shown up in your browser.